Hi, I'm John Stevens,
This is Matt Russell.
and this is Pod Have Mercy.
This is Pod Have Mercy. Hi, John.
Hi. It's like Groundhog Day. Doing this podcast with you is like Groundhog Day, which is, I mean, it's a good thing, not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But Groundhog Day, is really a modern parable. It's like he starts out, you get stuck in the same day over and over again, and then you try to deal with it through a variety of different methods or a progression, So at first, it's just totally, first off, it's just fear, anger, trying to get out.
Yeah.
Then it's like totally like narcissistic, selfish. It's like, I'm going to live for me. And then it's like desperation. And then he finally just says, he gives up and he starts to just love everybody, right?
Yeah.
So it's like progression. I haven't gotten to the love yet, just so you know.
No.
I don't know where I am on that, but
Maybe one of the desperation trying to cut a deal with trying to get out of this. The stages of grief. Right.
well, so we're really blessed because Charlie makes us coffee every week. Not every week, almost every week. This stuff is from your friend.
Yeah. Now this stuff
Stuff is awesome.
I know, it's amazing. This is from a little coffee shop called the Ship Channel Trading Company. I know I can say that. The owner is Levi Craig, who is a friend of mine, and he's one of the only Q-rated coffee roasters in Houston, which is like, if you're a wine connoisseur, it's like one of the wine rating kind of folks that are able to rate wines. He's able to rate coffee. And so he is. He has a little roasting shop over in the kind of near Garden Oaks, Oak Forest, I think, area. And so during quarantine, I've been going over and supporting his shop, and it's just, I've never tasted coffee like this in my life. It's beautiful.
The flavor though is so unique.
Yeah.
What is that?
So it's a single source coffee from. This is from Kenya, and so he knows all the. It's a single source coffee from one farm that he's picked and that he's roasted himself. And we got to go over there sometime.
I want to go. And it's amazingly aromatic. I mean, it's like, it was very pleasantly.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's a very pleasant experience today.
Yeah.
And if you think we're just trying to like talk nice about,
we're not trying to sucker him into giving us coffee or anything.
we don't have
not
any
stoop to
sponsors,
that.
but a coffee company would be great.
Yeah, we would never stoop to that level.
Just throw a bag of beans. To a brother every once in a while. You know what I mean?
We'll mention you or not.
I'm serious. A heart attack though. That coffee is.
I know, it's phenomenal.
I'm taking that box home with me.
You can have it. There's just no coffee in it, but you can have the box.
Oh wow. Well, so today, in all that's going on, I thought you and I talked about it. I thought it would be really neat to invite another friend just to sit and visit with us. There's a lot of unique connections on this because first, we know him well. I think we can talk about all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Some serious, some fun.
Yeah.
Gregg Taylor, former Chapelwood staff person, former pastor at Mercy Street. He followed you.
He did.
At Mercy Street.
Yeah.
And then he was there for 7 years. Left several years. Left about my first year here. Went to work with Revision, Charles Roll Trammell, and here in Houston.
That's right.
And now he has just moved to Minneapolis, Minnesota, to be the pastor at Park Avenue United Methodist Church. And he's moved there just as all of this is unfolding. So I thought, wow, let's just hear from him and what's going on with him in his life and just what's happening in Minneapolis.
Yeah. It's great. It's great. He's a wealth of knowledge and an amazing heart. So it'll be great to have a conversation with him.
Hey, what's the temperature up there?
Right now it's like, I think it's like 85. It's really disappointing.
85.
Because right now in Houston, it's 95 degrees and the heat index is 107.
Yeah.
Gosh.
He was 93 at 10 o'clock last night.
Yeah, actually it's 70 degrees right now.
Oh my gosh. Can you cut him off?
It's going to be supposed to rain tonight and some tomorrow, and then Thursday it's sunny and 75.
Oh, that's great. He's the weatherman now. Pod Have Mercy's weatherman. We turn it over to Gregg Taylor.
Weather
live in
traffic.
Minneapolis.
Sunny
What are
and
you seeing out there,
75.
Greg? Well, thanks, John. 70 and sunny.
Sunny and 75.
All your smooth hits from Minneapolis,
That's right.
KNNN. I thought it would be interesting for us just to catch up, and you were here on staff 7 years, right? Mercy Street at Chapelwood. Was it 7?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you went on to Revision, and now you've just moved to start to be the senior pastor at Park Avenue United Methodist Church in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
So you have been right in the middle of a lot of things going on. So I guess just starting, I mean, how is Minneapolis? How are you finding it? But how are you particularly finding it like in these days?
Yeah, it's
Thank you.
it's interesting because folks around here have said so you come here in a pandemic, COVID, coronavirus, we can't get together, and then there's a killing of George Floyd, and there's burning buildings and protests, and and then they say, but hey, welcome to Minneapolis. And just like, I mean, it's kind of nonchalant, right? And it is disorienting, to be honest with you. I found out it was the month I'd been here a week when that happened to George Floyd, just 4 blocks away from where I'm sitting right now.
Wow.
And I had just finished a planning meeting with worship planning meeting, and then it came across somebody, I can't remember who, let me know, and we were looking at it, and all this was going so fast, and then we were able to, we didn't even know who it was at that point. We didn't know his name, but I saw the video, and I just wanted, I just felt like I needed to throw up. And it was just so, the look on the officer Chauvin's face, and people screaming to let him go or let him up. He can't breathe, and you hear the gasps of George Floyd, and the officer not, really is obvious that he didn't care, and it was just, it's hard to describe for me. I mean, I felt ill. I felt disturbed. And then because there's a person on our staff who grew up around that corner, we started trying to get as much information as we could, and it was through his resources and in relationships that we were able to find out George Floyd's name. He just called a friend who was there on the scene and saw the whole thing, and we were able to get more information from him, and then another staff person was saying, this is going viral, we need to say something, I think. And I'm like, well, what do I say? What am I, I can't even find what key goes to what door, and trying to figure out what to say to a church I don't know, in a community I've never been to. And it was so disorienting, and heavy, and it's I don't know what else to say about it. It's been and not to make it about how I feel, but it's tragic for the community, for everyone around here. And we're in an area where a lot of the businesses that you probably saw burning, on TV, that's right around here. Lake Street is just down the street, and all these Lake Street businesses, immigrant owned and indigenous sort of restaurants, and it's a great. There's a global market, and we have people a lot of folks that live around here, and they're finding gas cans behind their garages, and hearing gunfire, finding weapons, rifles, pistols, on the grass, on the sidewalks, or stashed behind a building, and the flashbangs and the fires, and this so traumatic and disruptive. And that's on top of the trauma that many in this community have felt because of the coronavirus and losing their jobs and the health concerns. And so it's trauma on top of trauma, and it's been something. And but at the same time, so many peaceful, protests and beautiful things happening, and that feel like this is different. I don't know that it will be. I hope it will be, and not just hope, but we're trying to act toward that so that it will be. But it just feels different. I don't know if it does for you in Houston, but
oh yeah, definitely. One of the things I think be helpful is, and I only know enough to be dangerous. Tell people about Park Avenue, the kind of church it is, the makeup. It's a pretty unique congregation that you've gone to pastor, and I think that may help people understand the context of the church you're in and the community that you're in.
Yeah, so Park Avenue has been here in the central neighborhood of South Minneapolis for about 130 years, a long time, and a long history of ministry in the city, presence in the city. I'm still learning about its history, but somewhere along the way, they began this experiment of moving from just sort of a white congregations to a congregation of cultural diversity, and made the shift, and the hard work of making the shift in the probably the late 50s, I think, and then definitely in the 60s, and then up to the present. So it's diversity is kind of a catchword, but it's diverse in terms, definitely diverse in socioeconomic diversity, cultural diversity, ethnic makeup, very balance of white and black, and there's some Latino and Asian, and so it's just got a rich history of also reaching out and working in the central neighborhood here and around Minneapolis to. So we have a legal clinic, we have a St. Mary's Health Clinic, we have a Cornerstone Clothing, we have that all are part of. We have the African American Registry here, all officing here, and so it's had this long sort of intentionality toward contributing to the lives of people in South Minneapolis, and so and then in terms of when people come, not just from this neighborhood, but people are part of this church that live 5, 10, 15, 20 miles away as well, and come regionally into it. The worship is what draws a lot of folks. It's energetic, it's inspired, it's just it's contemporary in a sense, not in the sense of sort of excuse me for saying this, lame contemporary Christian music. It's got vitality in its life because it comes from the experience of a lot of the African American experience, and the director of music is a French dude who is very gifted, the music is incredible, the singing, and I can't wait for us to be together because I've experienced it more remotely and not in person, and but that's a big draw for folks. That's why they're here. When I talk to folks about why they're at Park and what drew them here and why they're here, they stay because of that, and they stay because of the intentionality to mission for folks here, and also because of it's a church that is diverse, and there are not many churches like this, And it's really an honor, and I'm grateful to be just a part of this community, not just as a pastor. I said this on Facebook the other day, but I'm grateful to be a part of it as a person. I mean, this is the kind of thing that I'm so thrilled to be to walk alongside folks and have them walk alongside me and teach me what it's like to be a church like this.
That's awesome.
What is it like on the ground there for you? I know that this week, as we've talked a couple times on the phone, there was a SWAT tank in your church parking lot.
Yeah.
I know that if you look out your window, the protests come right by your church, and so and I also know that y'all have erected a memorial to George Floyd, an art memorial. Could you talk about some of that in terms of just where you're at right now in that context, and how that's going?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I sent you the picture, Matt, of that SWAT tank or whatever it was, military vehicle, just parked in our parking lot. And Ann Bauer, who is a staff person here, she had texted it to me, and I thought, well, can they do that? Can they just show up?
Do I need to call a trustee?
Yeah, I'm going to call the trustees. Hey, guess what? But they were there. I guess, there was a big march, a peaceful protest going by the church down Park Avenue, and I don't know. I mean, I guess they were just trying to keep the peace, or it was just bizarre, though. I don't know that I ever thought I would be a pastor of a church where a SWAT tank is parked in your driveway or, in the parking lot. And there's been a strange mix of, this police presence and, the violence and the looting and the fires and the peacefulness of all this and peaceful protest. And so on the ground now, it's a lot of that has been diffused, I think. It's because of I don't know why. I think the arrests of the officers and the charges filed, that's definitely what should have happened a lot more quickly than it did. But now it's, there's still protests and peaceful. I was in a march, participated in a march last Tuesday, led by African-American faith leaders in the city. Right. I mean, just hundreds of people just, I think I put something on Facebook, but yeah. And just amazed at the sheer numbers of people that, as we walked down to 38th and Chicago, at Ground Zero there, I mean, people spilling over into the all four corners, and some of the African American leaders spoke, and then we knelt down, and all these people, thousands of people, prayed the Lord's Prayer together. And then there was silence. And I just, those times when you feel like there's something going on, you're just like, yeah. I just had that sense of this is, that God's presence was here in that place, and it's this holy ground kind of every tribe and tongue. I mean, there are obviously tribes and tongues not there, but it just felt like that, right? White people, people from every different kind of skin hue were there, and the silence was just gripping. The next day, on Wednesday, we, right after it happened, a couple of our artists at Park, they were inspired to create a mural. And so I said, yeah, let's do this. And so it's about a 6-foot mural. And I thought, well, let's create a prayer garden of remembrance for all of this, so that, and as a gift to the community around us, so that we don't forget. And so they created this big mural, and then on Wednesday we had a mural dedication service for that mural, and then a prayer garden, and all these people gathered, and we were able to do that and pray together, and then close that with 8 minutes, 46 seconds of silence. And again, in that silence, there was that that presence of God. You just feel, or I felt, and I think others did too, that this is something's going on here, and so that's the sense of this. There's this sort of holiness, in a sense of justice and shalom and something different happening. And at the same time, there's still a lot of need. You know, there are folks that are suffering because of COVID, because of the violence, and because of losing their businesses and in this neighborhood. And so we're trying to reach out to them in COVID-safe ways. And so we're things like, you know, tomorrow we're doing a big tent thing in our parking lot with the health clinic and the legal clinic and a food giveaway and all these different tents set up, and then also the spiritual support and emotional support, because so many folks are dealing with trauma, and they need folks to. I think they need folks like us, the church, to just listen to their stories. What's it like to be you, and how can we hear you and support you and pray with you, and then connect you to trauma trained specialists who can help them help you walk through this and deal with stuff. The children, dude. I mean, the children. You know. We had a prayer march on Sunday, and we hosted two, and they came. The first stop was at our mural outside our building, and there was one of our ladies, member, African American lady, beautiful woman, prayed, and the passion coming out of her being, just to for the sake of mothers and their children. It was just this sort of guttural, passionate plea to God and to all of us to not let this go by. That our children's lives are at stake, and praying for the trauma that they've endured and still endure, and lamenting and grieving and imploring God and the community to something different than what we've been. To imagine a way of being that is healing and equitable and just, and it was just powerful. It's just I'm getting emotional just talking about it, and there's a lot of that going on, and there's a lot of unity and a lot of togetherness, and at the same time there's a lot of conversations that still need to be had. And I think this can be a catalyst for sustaining conversations for racial justice and healing among the faith community. And I think Park is uniquely positioned in the community to host and even lead those conversations and definitely be a part of that. So I'm excited about what that's going to look like going forward.
You know, we've had conversations, and we're going to have a lot more with voices that we need to be listening to. As a white man, there's a lot of voices that I realized I think I've been listening, but I don't know how well I've been listening. And so we want to open that door more and more. But I guess, just from my perspective, I get the sense and feel that this is a significant pivot point or inflection point in our history of racism and racial disunity in our country. I don't know. I don't mean that to say this is going to start the road to fixing it all. But what are your thoughts? I mean, I know, I grew up in South Georgia, and I guess I even mistakenly thought Minnesota is like, that can't be a place where there's racism.
Yeah, there's too many Lutherans up there, right?
I mean, that's just my stupidity and my
All these
ignorance, you
Lutherans.
know, because anywhere there are people of different races, you're going to have racism. But, you know, the South is one of that, is that place in the space where people can easily point to the generalizations and the stereotypes and the history. There's a lot of bad history as well. But, you know, when it was Minneapolis, Minnesota, where we were supposed to be up there in May for a general conference, that was, I guess, not the place I would have thought the light would have shined in the darkness. But what are your thoughts on this whole thing as a pivot point, and if it, just the feeling of it, and what do you see comes from here for people like us and the questions we need to ask and the ways that we need to listen?
A great question.
That is a great question. You know, John, I am no expert on any of this. My sense is that, you know, I agree with you. Listening is key. I think, you know, white folks, and I'm a white guy. You guys are white guys. We're white pastors. I do think that we need to listen to the Black community, and we need to be taught by them. We need to be led by them. I don't think we're in the position to be prescriptive about what's next. I think we need to follow their lead. And I do think in a lot of ways, you know, the Black community has been waiting for, white folks to actually get off their butts and learn the history, but also take action and understand that we have to move beyond. Racism is not whether or not you identify yourself as a racist. I mean, there's surely that, but to understand racism in structural way, the structural sort of permeation of racism, the systemic outflow of that, in terms of, you know, education and healthcare and employment and wages and housing, and this has been baked into our American way of being for 400 years.
Yeah.
And I didn't know, years ago, I didn't know that. I didn't realize that. I didn't, I felt like I didn't learn some of this history, that maybe it was revisionist, or maybe I wasn't paying attention. That's likely. But it was, I just didn't feel like I was aware of all this, and that it is the air we breathe. It's cultural. It's, and I think this is a pivot point. I think a catalyst for us to open our eyes a little bit, and maybe a lot, open our hearts and our minds to begin understanding. George Floyd, the knee in his neck, that's been going on for a very, very long time, and I think that seeing that, and the way it's communicated and documented now for people to see, then it becomes a place for white folks to say, "Oh, okay, something's going on here. I need to think different. I need to learn more." And I think there are ways to do that. And you guys are doing that at Chapelwood and with Curate so those are. I think education is a huge thing. Not that it solves all the problems, but we have to understand where we've come from and its impact on our present and our future. And then I think there, in terms of the church, I like Cornel West, great philosopher. I love that guy, but he talks about a spiritual and moral awakening, right? That needs to happen, and that's part of it as well. And repentance and moving into allowing God to take our imaginations to a more, dream, our minds to expand and to think differently and bigger and more expansively. And that's all part of it as well. But I'm willing to, you know, I'm willing to learn from our Black brothers and sisters, and I think the church needs to centralize them in terms of leadership, and decentralize, you know, ourselves, our white selves, and elevate them, follow them, because they need they need us to ally, you know, with them.
That's a good word. I mean, I think you're right. There's, I think the listening that is called on right now is a listening that is coupled with a lament, so that it gets into us and that it's able to do the work of the Spirit. So it's not. I know that oftentimes I've been kind of playing with the metaphor of therapy almost, that it's this work of saying, what else, so I can, not so that other people can tell me what the history is, but so I can let that in and it can do its work inside of me, in a deep spiritual way. Because I think that this is really, at the end of the day, spiritual work. And I think it's the spiritual work mainly of the white community, to deconstruct this apparatus that's been constructed around us, that we were born into, that the Spirit at the end of the day wants us to be freed from, and so that we can be free for the work in the world in a new and different way. As a pastor kind of showing up, I find it really, like you just kind of describing, you know, first of all, you kind of entered to Minneapolis in a pandemic, you know. Well, you're in a new state. You're away from Texas, you know. So that's, that's tough in and of itself, you know, for Texans that get, you know, like you get far beyond Texas. You kind of feel like, oh no, what do I do? So you're in a new city. You're not just a new city. You're in a new country, you know.
He's lost.
And you're in the midst of a pandemic where you can't, knowing who you are, you're a high touch person and you can't touch folks, you know? I mean, you can't gather folks. You can't do the deep work. And then this, like, so how are you finding your own orientation? Where's that coming from? What are you relying on? What are you, how are you making your way, and what's orienting you?
Wow. Again, I feel disoriented. I feel ill-equipped. I feel inadequate. I feel, you know, and of course, you know, self-doubt, sort of is always circling my brain. So
this is great. These are all the central qualities of a senior pastor. So I'm glad to hear it.
I know. And friends, you know, people in Minneapolis are going to, if they hear this, are going to go, what's up with this guy?
A little buyer's remorse.
Buyer's remorse. You know, yeah. No, in terms of orienting, friendship, I mean, this is really helpful, you know, to talk with you, you guys. And this is an amazing community, amazing group of people here. And I tell you that I think the most orienting thing to me, the thing that has centered me and helped give me confidence, is the Black community here, who have generously said, when I've asked them to walk me through some things, or to check this out, I want to check this before I print it, or before I speak it, or before I record it, and let them speak into it. That has, wow. and listening to them, and when they say, yeah, that's a go. That is really good for me, you know, and that's helped me tremendously. We have people, praying for, and reaching out. And so I'm very high touch, and, having a community, gathering people around, it's, that's really helpful to me too. And so there are folks, even though we can't really gather together folks, there are plenty of folks who have gathered around me and reached out, and that's oriented me as well. And to be honest with you, just breathing and closing my eyes and confessing or admitting to God that I'm powerless here. I I don't know what to do, and just saying, will you help me? And then, trying to listen to that.
Humility. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
I'm proud of my humility, so.
So proud.
So proud.
Hey, you're gonna keep the area, the boots going, right? And even in Minneapolis.
I've got them on.
You do?
Got them on now, and folks up here have commented on that.
They don't know what an ostrich is in Minnesota, do they?
They don't.
Have they commented on your boots?
They say, "Oh yeah, he's got his Texas boots on," and they're saying, "Dude, that ain't gonna work." Come November, they're gonna. We need to get you some Minnesota boots.
Some fur-lined grizzly bear boots. Yeah, so the standard protocols on all the calls I've been in with churches and medical leaders. We're fortunate down here, as you know, to have Texas Medical Center, and so Mark Boom has been on this podcast. He's the president CEO of Houston Methodist, and he's been a great personal resource to bounce things off of. But yeah, the distancing is going to be key. So you're talking about blocking off every other pew. You're talking about families can sit together, households can sit together, but then you're going to have 6 feet of separation. So how many people you can get in the sanctuary is dependent upon how many people come together versus how many people come, a onesie. So if everybody comes like by themselves and they're not connected, you're going to have fewer people if you distance. Whereas if you have a family of 6 and a family of 4 or 5, but they're encouraging us so in our early phases to not sing, to no congregational singing. Well, that stinks. You're talking about, what's that going to be that I come in from my car, I wear my mask, I sit in my pew. Once I'm distanced, I can remove my mask if I want, or I can keep it on. I watch the service. I hear some music. And then when it's done, I'm released out to go back to my car. We don't have social parlors now. There's no coffee station. There's no donut station, not at least in these early phases. So you have to phase it in, and you have to start out strict and then loosen it up. Because part of one of the things we talked about with Mark Boom is that there's behavioral modifications that people are already learning. So think about how many people, you said you're a touchy-feely guy, right? You're a contact person.
I didn't say touchy-feely.
Well, I put that in there. I think you're actually very touchy-feely.
I am not touchy-feely.
Appropriately so.
You're a sensitive man, Gregg Taylor. You should be proud of it.
I'm a sensitive man. Okay, go ahead.
But the point is, think of all the people that you had your touchy-feely relationship with before.
Hey, just stop using that term. Okay, just stop. Okay.
Think about the people that you and I interacted with on a daily basis or a weekly basis. Hands we shake, hugs we give, we're sitting across, we're leaning in, we're praying with people. And think now, since this, we're not doing that. Yeah. And even when we're around people, we have masks, we're distanced, we elbow bump. I can't remember the last time I had a hug, from someone that wasn't in my household. And so all of these things are behavioral modifications that we've made. And what happens is now people have to start practicing those when they come to church. They're learning them in a restaurant. They're learning in a grocery store. They're learning them in an airport. But they haven't been back to church. And I think some people mistakenly think they're going to come back to church and it's going to be like it was when it stopped. And so I think managing the expectations for people is going to be hard. Because like you said, you have a dynamic worship experience at Park Avenue, and it's going to be different when people come back. I mean, are the congregation going to be able to sing along? Are now as the choir or the singers are going to have to spread out different? They're going to have to do things differently. It just alters the whole vibe of what we do. So in some ways, we're kind of in this in-between season until we get to vaccine day.
Yeah, vaccine day. What's the Sunday you guys are going to start that?
June 28th.
June 28th. Okay.
June 28th.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And most, like a lot of folks I know in Georgia, are looking at July, 12th? The second week of July. I know some churches, like I've heard some churches, like a church that's very liturgical, that does a lot of Psalter, that does a lot of responsive. Like if it's I think of St. Paul's, for example, here in Houston, more formal, high church, traditional, choir. There's heavy influence on the choir. They can't really do their style of worship with these restrictions. Not well. I mean, not the way they want to.
Right.
So they have to figure out how to adapt and decide, when we come back, what does it look like? So we feel like my philosophy is, we got to start. We're seeing a little uptick in Houston. We're probably going to see a spike too. You got Memorial Day. You had a huge 60,000 person rally and protest last Tuesday. We have the viewing and the funeral today and yesterday. So, man, I watched the funeral. I don't know if you watched it today, but there was no social distancing. Even at the beginning of the funeral, the preacher said, we're just going to forget distancing today because we need to be there for one another, which I can't fault that. But it's, you pay a price at some point, maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, it's in terms of the church, how do you want to, the health of your people is got to be at the top of the list, right? And not exposing folks unnecessarily to something, especially those who are most vulnerable, the elderly and that kind of thing. And it's hard. And what I'd love for you guys to do is to put together a procedure manual, and then
get that to you.
Get
that to me
by end of day Friday. Is that good for you?
Does that work?
Let's wait. We got some time, so we can do it after June 28th or whatever it is when you're gonna.
So when we find out all the mistakes that we've made,
we
for
can sure.
Learn. Yes,
I don't want this. I don't want pre-failure. I want post-failure. Trial and
error is the way humans learn, and you want us to find out all the errors.
You want us to win the Darwin Award before you have to.
Absolutely.
Well, dude, you've been in my prayers. I know you've been right in the middle of a lot of activity, and probably more to come. I know. I heard as I was watching the funeral that the intention of a lot of justice advocates in this particular, they want to be up there when this case goes to hearing and goes to pretrial and goes to court. So, it's going to be followed. Minneapolis is going to be in the center of this for a while. So just want you to know you're in our prayers and our thoughts.
And to know also, I think about kind of leaders that are given to certain times. I think about, John being in leadership here at this church now, you being in leadership there. I feel like that these are kind of God-appointed times to lead in particular ways, and although you feel inadequate, there are folks all around you that know for a fact that you've been prepared for this time, and also know the way that you'll lead will be done with deep humility and connection and grace. And so we just we rejoice in that.
Yeah, we love you, man.
Love you, dude.
Love you guys too.
I'm John Stevens.
And I'm Matt Russell.
And I'm Gregg Taylor, and this has been Pod Have Mercy.